and I can look back and see all the signs. But when you're in it, they're subtle, and you don't know. Is
Right.
this just, again, is it drugs? Is it rebellion? Is it what's going on?
This is Fixed on Jesus. Hey everybody, welcome back to Fixed on Jesus. This is a podcast for Center Church by members of Center Church at Center Church. My name is Rich, and I am joined by Mark Johnson Jr. just across the table. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm okay.
But there's some extra people in the room.
There are, but let me do the intro, Mark.
Okay. All
We're
right.
jumping ahead.
Fine.
Right. We also have Heather behind the glass, as always. She's waving. She's jumping up and down. She's jumping up and down.
She did a backflip once, too.
She did. We have, before we get to our guest who's in studio here with us, we have kind of something special and unique coming up on June 24th, don't we, Mark?
Yes, we do.
We have our 100th podcast.
That's right.
That will be recorded. So we record these, I don't know, I'm going to take you in behind the scenes, friends, but we record these and then they are remastered or whatever by Heather, and they make us sound good, and we make all our thoughts make sense, and then they're published. And so we are cordially inviting you to come to our 100th, the recording of our 100 podcast on June 24th. Now we're going to have to limit it to 10,000 people. I know that's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Really difficult.
Fire code for the building.
Yeah, exactly. No, not really. It'll be 7:00 on June 24th at the church building here at Center Church. If you're in Gilbert, Arizona, around Phoenix, Arizona, you're more than welcome to come. We're going to have all manner of tomfoolery going on and dessert, right?
Yep. Refreshments, dessert. I'll be singing.
Nope.
It'll be epic.
Nope, we don't sing, do we, Mark?
No.
We sing on Sunday, and most people don't have microphones. That's how that works.
That's true. That's why I don't get one on Sunday.
That's right. You barely get one now.
That's true.
Because we can mute you. Heather can mute you if you start singing. We don't want to do that.
I think I'm muted right now.
No, you're not. Anyway.
So we'd love to have you. You'll see some details in the show notes about that. You'll also probably see a push notification. We'd love to hear some of your questions. You'll hear Rich making fun of me making fun of him, those kind of things, as well as just some replays of some of our more popular moments, which aren't very many. So it'll be hard to find.
But it's okay. Something to celebrate here. 100th episode. In this episode, though, we have a special guest. We have Deborah Geesling with us. How you doing, Deborah?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Excellent. Deborah Geesling is many things in our church, a valued member, and is... for the purposes of our podcast, we're going to talk about mental illness. And one of the things Deborah does is, in addition to being a mom and a grandmom and a wife, you are also an advocate for mental illness.
That's right.
And so we're going to talk a little bit about that in this podcast. We're going to talk about it. We're going to just draw Deborah out and hear her story, because the story that Deborah has and the way she became an advocate for mental illness is because one of her sons, Seth, has schizophrenia. And the reason we're bringing this up here and talking about this together now is there are some voices out there in our culture who are saying that schizophrenia is actually not real, that it's some kind of a manifestation or direct result of sin, and it's not really a physical malady, which in our judgment is off base, wrong, and damaging. And so I wanted to just bring Deborah in so that we could hear her story and think together about a real balanced and effective view of the sufficiency of Scripture, because we can believe in the sufficiency of Scripture without jettisoning reality, right? And so we don't want to shoot the reality that there are people who have schizophrenia off into the sun for the convenience of sort of maintaining a false understanding of the sufficiency of Scripture. Scripture is sufficient and schizophrenia is real, and we're going to talk about that, right?
That's right.
So, how you are an advocate for those with mental illness. Is that what you wanted to be when you were a little girl?
No. I wanted to be a forest ranger.
Forest ranger.
A forest ranger before I became a Christian. And then...
Wait.
Uh-oh.
That's great.
Insert
I love
conversion
this.
story.
We're going to hear how she became a Christian first. But like you wanted to be in what forest or like what part of the country?
Garden of Eden, clearly.
Definitely. No, somewhere in North America, somewhere in, one of the great
So it
forests
was really
out there.
just, what, did you see like a Smokey the Bear show or something like that and you wanted to be?
I don't know. My parents, when I was a teenager, I don't know why they sent me here. The United States Forest Service used to have these camps where you would go and in the summer and they train you how to do forestry things. And I thought it was really fun.
Can you make a fire without matches to this day?
No, I cannot.
What did you even go there for?
I have no idea.
Can you make a temporary like shelter?
No, I married somebody who could.
What did you go and learn then?
She learned that she wanted to do something else with her life.
No, she wanted to be a forest ranger.
No, she went and learned.
She's doing something else. But so you're really not of any value in the forest?
No.
Okay.
Wow. Hey, Rich, this is our guest, okay? Be nice. You're mean to me. Don't be mean to our guest.
I'm just trying to make sure we have a good understanding of just reality. Okay.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I accept it.
Tell us about your husband. Who are you married to?
I married Matthew Geesling 42 years ago.
42 years ago.
Yes. And we have 4 boys. And our third son, Seth, is the one who has schizophrenia.
All right. So how old are your boys?
Oh, gosh. 39, 38, 33, and 30.
All right. And how many grandkids?
4.
And number boys, girls?
3 boys, and we finally got a girl.
She's the youngest,
family.
right?
She's the youngest, yes.
Is she doted on?
Oh, just a little bit.
That's good. That's
just
good.
a little bit.
That's good.
Yeah.
And so how did you become a Christian?
Oh,
Dun,
goodness.
dun, dun.
Oh, I'll keep it
No.
short.
It's okay.
Well, actually, I was brought up Catholic.
Okay.
And so I thought I was a good Catholic girl and I was going to heaven because I was Catholic.
And in Texas?
Yes, I grew up in Dallas.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of had this list of things that I will never do these things. And one by one, I would do those things. And I started realizing, this is maybe I have a problem. And we were visiting a church my father moved around a lot. So we did have a short stint in Illinois.
Uh-huh.
And it was a Catholic church there was sort of a revival going on. We didn't really understand it.
Sure.
And God started drawing me then. And when I turned 18, I was on a beach. I was selling drugs.
What kind of drugs?
I wasn't selling the drugs. It was the person I was with.
You were an accomplice.
I was.
You were an accomplice?
Yes, I was
As
an
that
accomplice.
individual was selling drugs.
Don't name that person either. We don't know what the statute of limitations are.
Oh, gosh.
Anyway, long story short, I walked away from that. We weren't arrested or anything. And there was this guy on a banana seat bike. He was a hippie guy, didn't have a shirt on. He was handing out gospel tracts.
Oh, man.
And he looked at me and he said, if you had been walking with Jesus, that wouldn't happen to you.
Wow.
And I don't know, I don't know. I was convicted.
Did you have category for what it meant to walk with Jesus or what
No,
it didn't mean?
I did not.
So you didn't really understand what he was saying?
I didn't, but I knew I was going down the wrong path.
Okay.
And so shortly after that, went back to Texas and met Matthew. And then I was doing our good Catholic, visit church on Easter. And my dad said, we're not going to the Catholic church. We're going to go to a different church.
Excellent.
And they shared the gospel. And my father and myself and my sisters came to Christ that day.
That day on Easter.
Yes.
What year?
1983.
Excellent. And you're married to Matthew at the time, and he's not a Christian.
We were
You're dating?
We were dating. We were engaged.
Oh, you're engaged. Okay.
And he was not a Christian, and he was not happy that I became a Christian.
Yeah. But
that's a whole other podcast.
that is a whole other podcast. But later, he became a Christian.
He did.
after many troubles and trials. Yes.
Yes, just a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've been married 42 years,
Yes.
and you have 4 boys. But your third boy, Seth, he's a wonderful, wonderful man. 33 years old.
Yes. He is. He's a very godly man.
He is,
a
and he's a
Christian.
valued member of our church.
Yes, he is. He loves our church.
Can I tell you what he comes and says to me? Probably 5 or 6 times now.
I would love to hear
He
it.
walks up and he says, "Mark, are you British? You're very proper."
He's very perceptive too.
Yeah, he is. He's like, "You're very proper. Are you British?" He asks me all the time. I'm like, "No, I guess I am a little bit British, but I was born here in the United States."
That's so funny.
That's funny. That's good. Yeah, he's sweet. So tell us about Seth. He of the 4 boys, he had a different experience. Yes.
Oh yes, very different.
And so, and Seth, and what happened to him, or what his experiences, what his life turned out to be, is one of the reasons you're an advocate for those that have mental illness, right?
Correct. Yep.
And so, maybe walk us down that road with Seth. Take us back and let us maybe experience some of the things you and Matthew and the rest of the family experienced with Seth.
Well, Seth was always, when he was younger, we always, I don't know if you're probably not old enough to know that poem. There was a poem, a nursery rhyme that said, when she was good, she was very, very good. But when she was bad, she was horrid. That was Seth. Like he was either hot or cold, even as a child. Like he was either really super good, or if he was gonna do something bad, it was all out. So he kind of was always that way. But then when he turned 14, it started to escalate, and we had just moved from our home in Mesa to Gilbert, and that's where he grew up. He was familiar with that home
In Mesa. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
he liked to ride bikes. He was like a BMX biker.
oh yeah, he loved.
He's being outside all the time. He'd love to just get out and mix it up. And
Yeah, he did.
uh-huh.
And he liked to play guitar.
Uh-huh.
My kids were very musical. My oldest son was really gifted in guitar, and my second son played the drums. And then Seth took up the guitar. And my oldest son is very accomplished, and his teacher came to me. She was teaching Seth as well, and she said, "Seth's going to be better than Zach. He's really gifted." I homeschooled them for a little while, but then my boys started going to a charter school.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, that's about the time we moved.
Okay,
to
moved
Gilbert.
into Gilbert.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then his behaviors just started becoming just really perplexing. He started hanging out with the wrong kids, in the neighborhood. He started running away. He started taking, overdosing on Benadryl, just bizarre, kind of extreme things, and we couldn't really figure out why he was doing that. And so our we took that very seriously as parents.
Sure,
We took
yeah. You didn't just go, yeah, no big deal, right?
Right.
Boys will be boys.
Boys will be boys, yeah. No, we knew that was our responsibility to parent him through that. And, our posture was always, he needs a savior, and he needs the gospel, and he needs discipline,
Right.
because we're his parents. We took all the parenting classes,
Yeah.
everything. We availed ourselves to read books where we were talking to our pastors. They knew this was happening. And in hindsight, I'll talk about that in a minute. What we didn't really think about, but we weren't looking at it like, oh, he has a mental illness.
So when he's 14 and stuff starts happening, you're thinking rebellion.
Rebellious
Exactly.
teen. Yeah.
Totally. That's how we addressed it, as he was just being rebellious. And
Which I've known a few 14-year-old boys, and rebellion is it would be what you would think, right?
The bread and butter.
It is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think I told my parents I was grown when I was 14, so I get it.
yeah,
For sure. And that's
Totally.
normal. That's what you would think, right?
right. But it just continued to escalate, and to the point where we as parents were, getting the police involved at times, you know, especially when he would run away. Yeah. So that it was just a very challenging time, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
But as he grew, the things started changing to where it wasn't just, the obvious rebellion. There were behaviors, there was an increased agitation. There was just his emotional responses weren't appropriate to what was going on. And then we'd, strange things like we'd go out somewhere and he'd always think he'd see a famous person. That started happening. We'd think, that's just odd little tics like that. But it was during this time when this one night where he overdosed on the Benadryl, and we were talking with our pastors, what do we do? And so we felt at the time that the best thing was to kind of remove him from all these temptations and just kind of take a reset. And so we, through some different counselors, we found a place in Montana that actually took him for several months just to kind of get him away from everything and
sure, which
maybe assess what's going on.
Yeah, which like for a rebellious kid at the time, you're still thinking rebellion.
Exactly.
You're like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's
Right.
get him away from his friends. Let's get him away from these influences.
Right. And he's
this
not
is before social media and all that noise.
exactly. Yeah.
And so that's, back in the old days, I mean, it was friends and drugs and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so
Right.
pull him away from that, go up to Montana, reset, right?
Right. And so we did that, and actually it was a good experience for him. He came back, and he still talks about it fondly. I mean, he got to go to Yellowstone. He got to go camping, whitewater rafting, swimming in the river with beavers. I mean, but it wasn't home. But he came back, and he seemed to do okay for a short time, and then it just all started up again, and he wasn't responding to our parenting, and by the time he turned 16, even close friends of ours, one of my dear pastor's wives, she said, and I was thinking this too, is there something else going on, physiological, that we're not, it just seemed like there was something else that we were constantly living in crisis. And so it just wasn't, again, not that normal. It was going out of the norm of just rebellion.
Like, so when you say living in crisis, you mean at home?
Yes.
So what was it like at home during this time?
Oh my goodness. It was very tense all the time. Seth would get agitated at things that.
Like, what are some examples? Maybe go back and walk us into the living room on one of these stories. If you can recall, I'm sure you can.
There's
Narrowing it down,
there's quite a few. I think it was just there was one time with Matthew, my husband, that he was trying to address something and correct him. And Seth just started punching and hitting. And if you touch Seth, that would escalate it. You couldn't just like grab him and say, "Stop, Seth." That would escalate it. So you'd have to just kind of handle it very carefully. But there was one time where it just got out of control, where he was just, I actually grabbed the phone and was going to call the police, and just because we need help and we didn't know what to do. And he tried to grab the phone from me. The police got there, and I was hysterical.
Sure.
I'm hysterical because I don't know what to do with this.
Right.
And so this is kind of when we started thinking, maybe we need to get professional help. And so what my husband and I did was just made an appointment with our medical doctor, our family doctor, and just him and my husband and I, just so that we could kind of bounce off of him what was going on, to see if he had any thoughts on it. And which he did. He thought, okay, I think you might want to consider having your son seen by a psychiatrist, not a psychologist, but a psychiatrist.
And what's the difference for those of us not initiated?
For me, basically.
Okay, well, it's okay. I didn't know this either. A psychologist cannot prescribe medications. They also don't have the education that the psychiatrists do. Psychiatrists basically have the same education as a medical doctor. So they also have that background. Plus, I think they have to go to school for like 10 years. It's intense.
So they said go to a psychiatrist.
He suggested going to a psychiatrist, and then he said the bad news is our mental health system is awful, and you don't have a lot of choices. So he recommended a group at the Phoenix Children's Hospital, and so I made the appointment, and then which was like 4 months out, and we had to wait
4 months. So you have 4 months where you're probably both afraid of Seth and afraid of what's going to happen.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
don't know, like, anytime you say something small or big, like even just innocuous, he could just take it and run with it, and things escalate to go out of control. Yeah.
Yes.
What's it like to live like that?
Oh my gosh. You don't sleep. I think I don't know what PTSD looks like, but I would wake up in the middle of the night and just start like screaming, like wake up just in starts, because I was always on the edge.
Yeah.
And then you have other children at home that you're trying to keep safe. And then my he's going to work, but he's calling me all the time. So it's affecting his work. Sometimes he's got to leave work and come home. And it was just no sleep. No, it was just chaos all the time and tension. And then at the same time, other weird behaviors are starting to peek their heads here and there. Like Seth would say he thought people had broken into the house, or he was hearing things in another room. And so we're thinking, is this drugs? Is this what's going on? It just, so it was chaos.
Yeah.
It was just chaos. And we felt like we were living in this, we just got to save his life. That's what we felt like. And he was also running away here and there, just would run off. I'm going to go to this friend's house, and wouldn't come home.
Yeah.
And so then we'd feel responsible, and it was very intense. And I think a lot of the police had come to our house, and most of the time it was us calling them. And then you have neighbors who see police coming to your house all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a social life. Friends are kind of like backing away from you because
You're not going anywhere without Seth. You're not leaving him supervised all the time.
No, we always had to be on deck. We always had to have a plan all the time. And we didn't know what we were dealing with.
That's exhausting, isn't it?
It is exhausting. And it's not like I could say to Seth, hey, Seth, what you think we should, go to the doctor and get checked out? He would never have agreed to that. So,
and I think there's a term for that, and we'll talk about that. Just for reference, you said Seth is how old now? 30? 33.
He's 33 now. So he was about 16 at this point.
So this was 2009, give or take a little bit.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, just time frame. They're trying to understand like where the mental health, I don't want to say movement, but there's been significant advancements in the last however many years.
Absolutely.
So just to kind of get a reference.
I had nobody. I had no one to call. Who do you call? I'm going to call my friend whose son had psychosis, this wasn't even psychosis that we knew of yet. Now we know this phase is called a prodromal phase, and I can look back and see all the signs. But when you're in it, they're subtle, and you don't know. Is this just, is it drugs? Is it rebellion? Is it what's going on?
So like I remember one time in 2000, I think it was 2009 or 10, as one of the pastors, I got a call, and Seth had run away. And it was, I think, the summertime, and we had no idea where he was. And so me and 3 or 4 other guys just drove around Gilbert looking for Seth for most of the night, and we never found him. And that was just one time. How many times do you think that happened?
I cannot remember. There's so much of it that's like a haze. This went on for years, a couple of years. And it didn't end there.
No, right.
It didn't end there.
It got worse.
It got worse. And
what would when you did have the police come to your house, what would they say, or what would they do, or what would you even say on the phone? You know what I mean?
Was it escalation?
Yeah.
There was it was, but we had different responses every time. There a lot, for the most part, they were understanding and compassionate, but they didn't, look at somebody who's a minor, a juvenile. They would just he'd get a court date, and he'd have to go to juvenile court, and he'd have to take part in what were they called? These diversionary programs. And so Seth had went through almost every diversionary program, which is all you do is just go sit in a classroom with other kids who are struggling and watch videos about you shouldn't do drugs, you shouldn't do this, which is not helpful. But anyway, it didn't help, and we were doing that's all we had. Those were the tools that we had, and so our shot here now was, okay, if we can get this doctor's appointment, we can get him in.
You had to wait 4 months with things on edge at your house.
Yes. But it got worse.
So go ahead.
So the day that I had written down that I was waiting for, the day before that appointment, I called just to make sure you still have Seth has this appointment, because we were hanging on this. But we have no real plan. We were going to have to lie to him to get him in the car. We're scared. We're thinking he's going to jump out of the car on the freeway. All these things were going through our mind. So I called the office, psychiatrist's office, an adolescent psychiatrist's office, and they say, "Ma'am, his appointment was yesterday. You missed it."
Oh.
And everything just dropped. I mean, are you kidding me? So I had to make another appointment and wait 3 months.
Oh.
And I was hysterical. I called my friend Charlotte, and one of our pastor's wives, and she said, "Well, maybe this happened for a reason. Maybe something would have happened if you went to this appointment this time." Well, when it came time for the next one, just before this, something escalated again with him, and we had to call the police. And this time we said, "We're pressing charges." We didn't have any other. That was our only
Against your son.
Against our son.
For
No.
what, assault?
It was hitting his dad. And my husband's a big guy.
Right.
So the police didn't want to. My husband insisted, look up everything we have done for him. We've done everything we could possibly do as parents. We're pressing charges. Which it goes, who wants to do that to their child? It was horrible.
It was out of desperation.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times had the police been to your house? Dozens?
Dozens.
Dozens and dozens.
Yes.
And so now Matthew says, I want to press charges.
Right. I'm pressing charges for assault. So they arrested him. He was taken to jail. He was put in jail. And lo and behold, that appointment was when he was in jail. And I told them, I don't know if he was assigned to a social worker. And they said, "Well, we can take him to the appointment." I said, "You're kidding me." So
he's got transport secured.
Right.
Without you guys worrying
totally
about him
secured.
jumping out. Yeah.
Wow.
And so, which was, it was a gut-wrenching experience to see your son in a little orange jumpsuit. We brought in handcuffs but he was there. And it was our only, this is how it had to be. And the doctor took in all of his history, looked at Seth and looked at us and said, your son is bipolar. Do you know this? We said, no, we didn't know this. And so he was able to put him on medications, and they were able to start that in the jail. And then when it was time for him to be released from jail, they sent him to a transition home for youth in Scottsdale, where they continued the medications, which was God's grace to it. So he was actually calm, and he was able to participate in counseling sessions with us during that time, and dialoguing with us. And then when he transitioned home, shortly after that, again, I'm not taking these meds. I don't need these meds. And we're getting 17. We're getting, this starts to escalate again, and all of these weird, odd things are escalating. And we were stuck because I'm not taking my meds, and we couldn't force him to take his meds. And so when he turned 18, there was one weekend when I had this conference to go to with my sister-in-law, and it was a Saturday morning. My husband had to work, which he never works on a Saturday. And so we couldn't leave our youngest son. We didn't want to leave him alone with him because we didn't feel safe. We didn't, and it wasn't that Seth was evil. We just knew there was something. He was not thinking clearly. He was not thinking right. And he was kind of acting a little manic. So we asked our older sons to come over that morning to stay and kind of check on him. And so what happened that morning was he had his first psychotic break, and he started getting very manic. And my sons one by one came over, and they're calling their dad, and they're like, "Dad, you got to get home. You got to get home." Seth's acting really erratic. He was jumping on top of my oldest son's new car. He picked up a lawnmower and threw it over his head across the yard. He was running around the neighborhood. They were chasing him. He was going up to people's doors, knocking on the doors, singing a song over and over, these same lines to a song. He would just stand there. They'd open the door and he'd just sing. Just bizarre.
Goodness.
And then they ended up, they're trying to corral him. "Come on, Seth, come on inside." And he wouldn't. And so they chased him,
And just so you know, friends, like if you're listening, Seth's a big guy.
Yeah.
He's over 6 foot tall.
yes,
And he's bigger than all his brothers.
yes, he is.
And so he's not, you don't think in your mind 5'2", 115 pounds.
No,
He's over 6 feet tall, and he's strong.
he's very strong. And then his adrenaline's going
Mm-hmm.
in what, we, at the time, we didn't have a category for what was happening. We didn't know this was a psychotic break. And we weren't there. My husband and I weren't there. And they finally said, "We've got to call the police. We need help." And the police came, and Seth ran away from them. He ran into a busy street on Ray Road in the middle of traffic, and he pushed an officer down, and they had to taser him. Thankfully they did. Thankfully that's what they did. And they recognized he was having a mental health crisis. And so they took him to a nearby hospital, transported him there after they tasered him. And that's when our real nightmare started. We thought what we had just walked through was the hard part, but that was just the beginning.
It was just starting.
It was just starting.
But we're going to continue this part, and next time we're going to hear more about Seth's story, and maybe get into some of what it's like trying to advocate for mental health, and like what it's like in our state and maybe in other states for watching out for people who have these mental health problems. As we wrap up here, if someone would have come to you in those moments and said, "Listen, the reason this is happening is because of sin," like what would that have done to you and Matthew trying to care for Seth?
I'm trying not to get emotional thinking about that. I would have devastated us. It would have I would have been completely hopeless. I just wouldn't have had the confidence to continue on to advocate for him. I would have just been looking inward and felt so hopeless.
Well, but this story has hope, doesn't it?
It does.
And
A
there's
lot.
more to it. We'll get to it next time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing, though. You never know who this might reach and help.
Absolutely.
We look
Yeah.
forward to talking with you more.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.